Hey everybody, welcome back. It's me, Teri Hunter, here on Astrolog's YouTube channel. It's Sunday, February 7th, 2021, and we are about to embark on a week with a lot of planetary activity setting the tone. And I think it's not just for this week, but it feels like a little bit longer than just your average new moon. We have 5 planets joining the moon in Aquarius. I should say the moon will be joining the 5 planets. That will make the sun, the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury, all in Aquarius. And it's so interesting to me because this new moon is at the Aquarian degree. It is at the 23rd degree of Aquarius, and it happens at 11:06 a.m. Pacific time, which I thought was interesting because the 11 struck me as the master number of thought. So that was very, very interesting to me. So I'm going to chat a little bit about this, but before I delve into that, I want to thank everybody for your well wishes, for your inquiries about my well-being and my health. I really appreciate it. Some people had asked, about a little bit more specifics about, how I empowered my body. And I'm just going to kind of say that I'm a big fan of the medical medium. And I also am a big fan of food being medicine. So I was very, very conscious of that. So I just want to say that for everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let's talk a little bit more about this 6 planets in Aquarius for this week, because I want to offer it this way. The new moon, and all new moons, are the darkest part of the sky. It feels very much like we talk about new beginnings, but they're untested. They're not tried out new beginnings. So as a result of the darkness, you have to go in and step in with a little bit of faith. I'm just going to interrupt myself. Small, will you take care of any angry people in the chat? Because they got to go. Yeah, troll alert. So this is what I want to say, because this new moon, I kind of think it's cool, because the new moon being the sun and the moon coming together, father and mother coming together to create something new that's untested, unexperienced. That's not a very good word, but for a lack of experience. So I want to put it this way. Now we throw in the idea of it being an Aquarius. And how can I individualize myself? How can I take the idea of what Aquarius represents, my hopes, my desires, my dreams, the ability to make more money, the ability to tap into networks and groups of people that are like-minded. So I want to put it this way. I feel like each one of these planets is having a conversation. I feel like it's like almost at being at a party, and as you mull your way through the room, the different planets are going to interact and have different conversations with one another. So we'll see Venus, commingle with Saturn and then Jupiter and meet up with Mercury as it retrogrades. So my whole point of this is we allow for this week and this new moon to look at how we want to individualize ourselves. And yet at the same time, it feels like I need to be flexible, fluid. I need to, in some ways, allow my energy to vacillate between the 2 rulers of Aquarius, which is Saturn and Uranus, and not in an explosive way and not necessarily in a rigid way, but in a way of marrying these 2 things. And I want to offer this. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to move the camera a little bit, but I was very engaged in this week in finding out what planet represents natural gas. Because if you look at my heater, which has recently been replaced, there's a big red tag on it. And that red tag is all danger. So there was a gas leak for the last couple of weeks, in addition to everything else that was going on. And one of the reason I'm bringing it up is because Uranus is squaring Saturn, and we're not exact yet. It will be exact on the 17th, but these two planets are starting a very strong conversation with one another. And Uranus is in Taurus. And Taurus is, wanting to move slowly and steadily, while Uranus is wanting to move very quickly. So there's a double push-pull on Uranus wanting to break free. Hearing that song, I think it was David Bowie, I want to break free, or maybe it was Freddie Mercury. I think it was Freddie Mercury. Anyway, so this week, as Mercury retrogrades more and more into Aquarius, and we start to really think about the ideas of what do I want to experience in the way of new structures in my life? What do I want to be? Where can I demonstrate a flexibility between the old and the new that empowers me versus making me feel restrained or restricted in some way? I feel like this new moon, while it doesn't necessarily feel like it's going to, it feels like it's going to be like rings on a tree. There's going to be certain things that we start to birth in our own personal lives. And then I feel like within our communities, we're going to start to see the ripple effect of all of this. And as we, as a light worker community, as people who come together with the intention to make the world a better place than it was when we got here, that we can set this light beam up into the world and then sort of surrender to whatever this pending square as these planets come together. Because the thing about it is, while there's, faster moving planets like Venus and Mercury moving through that, there's also this idea that as the square between Uranus and Saturn becomes exact, there are the other planets that are still having a side conversation. So that side conversation is some way going to have this ripple effect into this square. So the square, while it is known to create tension, if you think about yoga positions, if you're in warrior position, it is the tension of the two opposites that keeps the balance. So there's something about that I want to, I just feel like it's something we should mull over and something we should pay attention to. So that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit. I'm really, I don't know quite how to say it, because there's a part of me that feels the winds of change. The north wind is blowing in my life. And sometimes I feel like when there are disruptive things like this heater thing, I got to tell you, this heater thing was a real annoyance, because when I told the people that run the building about it, the maintenance guy basically told me that I was overreacting. That, he couldn't smell the gas. So the gas wasn't there. Yeah. Then the gas company came and they put the danger tag on it. And when the guy came back to repair it, did he bother to apologize for his rude behavior? No, he didn't. And all I could think about was, how did I want to show up in this moment? Because this man is so deeply entrenched in being right that he will go to great lengths to support his view of himself. And that's when I started to realize that that's just banging my head. Then I was mirroring. If I jump into this conversation, then I'm mirroring it. I'm having to be right. And I just said, you know what? I don't need to be right here, because I already am right. And the right was that I had to trust myself. The being right in that moment was not buying into him thinking I was a bitch, because I was being assertive in, no, there's a problem here. No, there's a problem here. And when Lucky had the dry heaves 2 mornings in a row, that's the gas. So anyway, long story short, this to me all feels like part of these planets coming together. And in some ways, maybe I seem explosive to people. Maybe I seem like my, Uranus a little bit. But, I have to own it. I have to, at the end of the day, decide if his imbalance and making what appears to me to be imbalance and me supporting that is going to supersede what I think about myself and how I want to show up for myself. So that's the way I want to put it. Oh, funny. Your phone turned up this week. How funny is that, Tebow? Where was it? I'm curious. Anyway, so that's what I have to say. We'll go week to week because next week is Valentine's Day. And we have Jupiter conjunct Mercury on Valentine's Day here in the United States. So that's going to be interesting. But this week, as you walk towards this new moon and you know about all these planets that are convening in one big conversation, think of it like a family reunion, I mean, some people you like to talk to and some people you don't. So anyway, all right, let's get on to our readings here. I'm going to do as normal, start with Pisces and work my way towards Aries. It was hiding in a box of CDs that you put in a cupboard. That is so funny. That's so funny. I find, and I wonder, as I'm getting older, if I don't remember things or if I'm just multitasking and then I have COVID head because I don't talk to other people as much as I used to. When before COVID, I had more people coming and going. Now everything's on the internet and a lot of time by myself. And I wonder if I'm not doing one thing and then thinking about another while I'm doing it. So I'm glad you found your phone. Hey, Les, welcome back. Good to see you. I want to welcome everybody here. If I didn't say it, all 117 of you or more. Let's go on to our readings. We're going to go. The COVID haze is real, no doubt. I mean, I feel healthier than, I know I had my little deal a few weeks ago, but I feel like my body is really happy with me right now. And I feel very engaged. There's a quote by Benjamin Franklin that something to the effect of, in the future, medicine will be food. And I really, really am buying into that. So I feel like as I allow my inner knowing, which is the new moon. Okay, this is kind of go back. Inner knowing is kind of like a new moon. It's a knowing, but it's a knowing in the dark because you don't have any evidence or experience to prove it. So while I was in the new moon of my own physical body as it's aging and yet also finding regaining its balance, I found that, engaging spirit into allowing me to see where resistance was, where I was engaged in a certain way of thinking and how I had two thoughts going at once, and then to help me to stand in the deeper truth of what I don't know yet. So that's where I'm going. And as I stood in the deeper truth of my body is strong, it's always been strong. I am strong. And what I haven't done is in times of challenge for myself emotionally, I turned in on myself. And I, drank wine and ate cheese for years, man. I smoked cigarettes. So here I am, 61. The cheese is gone. The wine is gone. The cigarettes are gone. And my body's recalibrating. And through that, there's a certain process. And I think if anybody's done a detox, they'll tell you, you'll get flu symptoms when you do a detox. So I really think that there was a part of me that was empowered by that challenge. And that challenge will sit in the back of my head if indeed I come across another challenge. So, all right, that's where I'm going. Here we go. I want to welcome India. I want to welcome Minnesota in the room. Juliana, welcome. This looks, I think you're new. The Bester house, welcome. Frequency is the new medicine, and I think that's our vibration. We have how we believe and what we think about ourselves, and also giving ourselves permission not to be perfect at something. Welcome, Divine Spirit Consciousness. We love to have new people here. Hi, Mary from Maryland. That has a nice ring to it. Okay, here we go. Pisces, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. If you don't know what a stellium is, it's 4 or more planets in one sign or house, which is, from what Spirit has shown me, it is a very strong influence, like we're seeing with this new moon, in one specific area. So anybody having a baby this week will have that stellium in Aquarius. And wow, those babies are going to be very, very interesting as they grow up. Very unique people. Okay, Pisces, here we go. Our first angel is Akasha, representing spiritual teaching. We have Indriel, the light worker. We have Isaiah, new beginnings. And then we have Teresa, which is a time of self-care. All right, let's see what else. Janine, congratulations. And I absolutely, this stellium is in place for your cousin. This is awesome. All right, here we go. Oh, bye, Stephen. That was a quick hello and goodbye. Have a great week. Okay. Pisces, Akasha is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Indriel is being joined by the frog. Isaiah is being joined by the owl. And Teresa is being joined by the dog. This is a very powerful. So Akasha is the spiritual teacher. And she talks about having the ability to counsel others. But Pisces, I want to offer it this way. To me, I feel like Akasha is really reminding you of how strong you really are. And you're ruled by Neptune, which in some ways can be, the flip side of Neptune. The lower vibrations are escapism, fantasy in a way of illusion. And I feel like right now, this is really an opportunity for Pisces to embrace a bit of an internal emotional storm where you start to really have the courage to see the truth of something that isn't working for you. And I want to say it this way. The reason I say it's not working is because I feel like Spirit is encouraging me to say to Pisces, quit trying to put a square peg into a round hole. And I don't think that that's in a negative way. It's more about, have you been the round hole that's trying to push a square peg into you? Because the frog is here. The frog is about emotional cleanup, cleaning my house, my mind. We have a Mercury retrograde. How do I think? Am I thinking thoughts that serve me? And Indriel's right now really illuminating an epiphany for me, for Pisces. There's something about you having an opportunity to not necessarily release something, but to see how on some level you have participated because you've been branded with a certain way of thinking. And as you've evolved, you're getting an opportunity to re-engage yourself in a new way of thinking. And that's what Spirit has to say in the angel's advice. The owl represents one coin, two sides, deception and wisdom. And as you, Pisces, allow for this epiphany that brings the opportunity to integrate where you've been, thereby it no longer holding you back, you have an opportunity for new beginnings and to really decipher between what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because in the final position is Teresa. Teresa talks about taking care of everybody else. And now it's time to take care of you. And the dog, while it represents unconditional love, it also represents loyalty and sincerity. And to me, Pisces, this is a loyalty to oneself as you have the courage to step into a place that says, my wants are as important as somebody else's wants are. My needs are as important as other people's needs. And if indeed I address my needs, does that mean that you're not going to support me? That's where it kind of feels like. there's a little bit of a feeling like Pisces has been pushed up of it's me or you. And even though the other person is inadvertently asking you, Pisces, to acquiesce to their desire, I don't think that that's really serving you right now. So to me, Akasha, the spiritual teacher, is opening you up to the idea that if I take care of my needs and show self-respect for me, then I am showing a certain amount of courage that then frees me to a new way of being. And that's evidenced in Isaiah. And this loyalty that you show to yourself, I think, will inadvertently have a ripple effect that is actually positive. So let's say initially that Pisces has been a team player to the extreme, sort of always being that, sure, I'll do that. Sure, I'll go there. Sure, I'll drive everywhere, whatever the case may be. And maybe now it's no, I can't do that. I'm going to have to, there's something else on the books. And I feel like that's where, as Pisces allows themselves to be loyal to their version of themselves, that even though there may be an initial disruption, that will then turn into an appreciation from the other side or the other party or the other half of the experience. Okay. It doesn't feel like it's argumentative per se, as much as it's like a diplomatic way of just holding space for yourself, which then starts to shift the whole dynamic. I've been feeling so much like Spirit has been showing me that especially like the tribe members that come into this space and on Lada's channel that have been seekers of their own balance, that have been inquiring about a bigger picture of the planet. And this seeking, this evolution that you've been going through, it's time to sort of acknowledge that. No matter what sign you are, I'm not the person I was a year ago, 2 years ago. And as I have spent more time looking into what the dynamics are, whether you're studying the laws of attraction, you're studying astrology, you're studying the tarot, all roads are leading to this sense of empowerment for the individual. And as you step into that, I feel like you really start to shift the frequency of not just yourself, but the environment around you. All right, let's go on to our Aquarius. Boy, this is your new moon. And it's funny because in my head, I've been saying to Spirit, should I encourage people to, perform ceremony, ritual during this time? And I feel like Spirit is really engaging me into the idea that this is an Aquarius new moon and an Aquarius degree with, at least within Pacific time, because my little calendar here is for my time zone. And that 11 a.m. time zone really feels like it's like, how am I thinking? How do I want to, what is my dominant thought? Because, one of the things that was so strong when I was feeling challenged a few weeks ago physically was, do I really believe what I talk about? Do I really buy it? Or am I full of what? Is this, and I have to say, the stronger part of me says, yeah, I do believe it. And now it was time to put my money where my mouth was. And in that putting my money where my mouth was, meaning, yes, I believe in a bigger picture. Yes, I believe that life goes on. Yes, I believe that this human experience is just, in some ways, a suit of clothing that I'm wearing for this particular period of time. And the bigger part of me knows a bigger picture about me. So in the illusion of the human, I'm fearful. I'm scared. And then I engaged my guides to help me understand my own resistance, my own depth of belief, because the resistance was such that I could not identify it completely, because I had resistance within the resistance to have resistance to not have resistance. And it was feeling like domino effect. So that's when I said to Spirit, I need an experience. That's how I learn. And then that trusting came. So here's another thing that happened. when I was having when my face blew up, I had to cancel an appointment. And when I canceled the appointment, it was a gifted session. So I didn't call the person who was gifted. I called the person who bought the gift. And I was a mess. And she happens to be an Indian woman, and she mentioned oil pulling to me. And I'm telling you, that was spirit leading me through my resistance. I knew about oil pulling, but I'd forgotten about it. I happened to have raw coconut oil, organic, in my home. It was the perfect thing. And it immediately made me, I could feel my body responding to that treatment immediately. So here it was again, this moment, new moon, darkness, where I have this idea that I am powerful within my own body, that my cells, my body knows how to course correct. And yet I'm constantly being pummeled with information that tells me that's not true, that I need Gardasil or I need Prilosec or whatever these damn drugs are. And I've not moved that direction. So I hope this is making sense, because what I'm trying to say is that I believe this Aquarian new moon is going to revolutionize people as they surrender to the human experience, that as it walks through a dark moment, a fear-based moment, that is literally the seedlings for the empowering moment. And without that darkness, we wouldn't come to the illumination that the full moon offers 2 weeks later. Okay, let's see, Aquarius, what we got going on here. Welcome, Simone, Kelly, and Dav, Jamie, random, I found you. I love that. I always feel like spirit giving a nudge. Welcome, Goldie. Is it Goldie's Eye Gods? Awesome. Good to see you. All right, here we go, Aquarius. All right, our first angel is Oceana. The second is Isaiah. The third is Merlina, and the final is Opal. You know, as I'm shuffling and I'm thinking to myself how revolutionary Aquarius is, how independent, how, you know, they're a sign that is so delicious in its innovation, right? And yet it's a fixed sign. How is that? Right? And then I'm thinking to myself, Spirit saying, well, they're fixed they're going to be stubborn about their own independence, their own revolution, their own innovation, and which is beautiful. Oceana is being joined by the deer. Isaiah's being joined by the eagle. Merlina's being joined by the queen, and Opal's being joined by the king. New moon, king and queen. All right. So Oceana talks about taking action on your deepest truth, about allowing your heart in many ways to lovingly assert yourself. And then there's the deer. And the deer talks about gentleness and diplomacy. And when I look at this right now, and I think about the Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius, that sometimes those explosions, meaning a frustration for not being able to individualize, can turn into an explosion. And I don't think this is an explosion outside of yourself as much as it may be an implosion within yourself. Because for me, Oceana is very significant in following the truth of my soul. She's swimming up through the ocean, which is mother, you know, our intuition, everything that we feel and know. She has a light illuminating, and then there's the whale, the soul's calling. And within the background, we don't see a dark, deep ocean. We see the stars to guide us. So keeping our eye towards heaven while we swim through these emotions that may be conflicting and feeling a little explosive and irritated. And so this is about being gentle and diplomatic about this journey within. Because to me, this new moon with all of these planets, if you think about Venus, you know, she does represent femininity. She represents love. She represents our money and our possessions. She represents the things we hold dear in the way of art and music. We have Jupiter, you know, expanding our belief system and calling us to a higher vibration. And at the same time, Saturn is asking us if we've done the hard work to go to that higher vibration. And so for my Aquarians, the opportunity is to give life to a new idea, to give life to the idea that, you know what, I have been standing in integrity for myself and for others. Because as I stand in that integrity of my own individuality, my own sense of unique expression, then I allow that in some ways for others to do that. And this is the crazy thing, okay? Or maybe it's not crazy, but a lot of people talk about Abraham Hicks, about the laws of attraction. And yet to me, the most powerful is not the law of attraction, but yet the law of allowing. Because the law of attraction operates whether we're aware of it or not. So as we are aware of it, then we invite in the law of attraction, which then invites in the experiences that we want. But it also allows for other people to have the experience they want. And that may not always be in an agreement with our experience. So this is where I'm going for Aquarius. Because as you embrace your own individual version of what you want for yourself, and as you start to really dig a little bit deeper into how much do you really emotionally believe that you are able to swim towards your dreams, and you engage spirit in, I need your help for me to really anchor in this new experience in the way of me being brave enough to realize that it is not me chasing it down. It's not me going towards it, but rather me receiving it. Rather me sitting in reception. This is the feminine energy in the new moon. And this Merlina is about being confused during this process, the process of inception and conception. You know, when a baby is born, when the baby is, when the two dynamics come together, there is a certain amount of process that is not managed by the human. It knows what to do. It's a natural seeking of balance. So as you, the Aquarian, give life to new ideas and then sit in the uncomfortable place of confusion as you are receiving spirit, then things start to come together in a way that feels very solid for you. And I've got the king and the queen here, and I'm not at all going to relationships between two humans. I'm going now between the law of allowing as represented by the queen in the angel's advice, and to remember that you're going to be confused. And Merlina, very interestingly, is a wizard as well. Okay, so I want to offer that up because there's magic happening. In the final position, Opal. Opal talks about God being in charge of the experience, in meaning that you've now passed the baton on. And now you're sitting in a place of justice, a place of balance, and a place of karma, where you're starting to understand that this is a relationship between a part of yourself in the human experience and a part of yourself still in the spiritual experience. I know this is going to sound a little weird and contrary, but I absolutely believe that when we are in our soul form, that we crave to come under the veil. We want so much to go into the unknowing, because the part of us that knows says, I will remember. I will remember who I really am. And in that, I will experience the power that I cannot experience out of body. The knowing that we have when we're out of body is not as much fun as rediscovering that knowing while we're in body. That's what's going on here. There's a rediscovery of who and what you really are. And those of you that chose to come in an Aquarian dynamic, where you either have a stellium or you have, like, if you have an Aquarian moon, in some respects, you have enough distance, because that's the scientist and the observer of the Aquarian, that can look without being pulled under. and yet still individualize. So I really think this is very exciting. And yeah, oh, and if you're an Aquarian ascendant, this is you all over the place. Whoop, I just hit myself in the face. So fun. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go on to our Capricorns. And I say that because every time now that I even say the word Capricorn, all I see is all the cardinal signs having to go through so many things that I didn't, and I don't know because I'm not a professional astrologer. I'm a intuitive astrologer, I think, these days. And as I've rediscovered the squares and the oppositions in Capricorn, I'm like, wow. So a quarter of us were going through it, not just all the Capricorns. And if you had a Capricorn stellium, holy scamoli, guacamole. Okay, here we go. On to our Capricorns, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. Yes, the new moon is on the 11th. That's another thing. Thank you, Shane, for bringing that up, because I'm picking up on the 11th. It's the new moon at 11:06 a.m. on the 11th. That's now 2 11s, master thought. The number of what am I thinking? Mercury's in retrograde. How do I think? Where is my process? Reevaluating those things. Wow, very cool. Very cool. Okay, Capricorn. Our first angel for our Capricorns is Caressa. The second is Adriana. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Isabella. Caressa talks about coming to the end of a life cycle, a new chapter. And lately, when I see these new chapters, it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm leaving a job, or oh, I'm changing a situation in my life, as much as it feels like the closing of the chapter is more about the recognition of your own soul's evolution. And rather than constantly going back to the place of pain or the place of where you were, quote unquote, damaged, then it's about the journey past that. And that's why I think Caressa is saying you're at the end of a life cycle. And then there's the letting go card. Then we have Adriana leading you past your history, Capricorn. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the restriction card. And then we have Isabella being joined by the wealth card. So this is where I'm going with this. Capricorn. Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits you. And there's the letting go card. I personally do not believe in letting go. So those of you that watched me for a while know that this letting go card has morphed into the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. Capricorn, you're coming to the end of a cycle about fears. You know, Saturn rules fears. Saturn rules cautious action and behaviors and perceptions. So to me, this is really an opportunity for you to start to balance that energy, to start to determine where fear can empower you and where fear is actually something you pay attention to and you move away from. If you see something like, you put your hand on a stove, not to put your hand on a stove again. But then there are certain fears that are the recipe for your enjoyment, for your conquering, for your achievement. So Adriana, in your opportunity or your obstacle, is saying she's leading you towards the answers to your prayers through those dreams, those subtle thoughts, those intuitions. And now the bear, to me, is moving me beyond my history and now into the enchantment of storytelling. And that storytelling is where I am healed from the restrictions of my life, where I have started to identify those restrictions have become resistance to the idea that there is balance coming. And I want to offer it this way, because as I've done this work and I've gotten older, I don't know if I believe that we need to be healed I feel like it's more of an awareness that the darkness serves the light and the light serves the darkness. And the darkness, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm trying to sleep, if there's a light on, it drives me crazy. I like to sleep in the dark. And so there's a wisdom to both sides. Not one thing is good or bad. So we can say, in some ways, Capricorn, this new moon represents a darkness that opens a new chapter, because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture, and harmonious wealth is coming to you. And when I say harmonious wealth, I mean it where we're no longer focused in on the speed bumps, on the divots, on the potholes in our life, but rather seeing how they served us. You guys, that I talk a lot about the goats, my Capricorn goats. And some people see goats as these cranky little things that chew on tin cans. And what I see are baby goats jumping around that are so happy and so joyful that they're literally contagious. You cannot look at a baby goat and not feel good. I don't know how. You'd have to work pretty hard. So this is where I'm going with Capricorn. This week, there are 6 planets having a conversation. The moon is, this only really takes place, the 6 planets on one day. But as they ramp up, they're starting the conversation. They're walking into the party. They're assessing the room, deciding where they're going to go to the bar first, or whether they're going to go get food first, or whether they're just going to sit down. So here, as I funny how some distance makes everything look small. It opens me up to a new chapter. And that new chapter is where my history becomes something I stand on that serves my growth, where I want to go. Because now I'm starting to be healed from my own resistance, my own what I've grown into a habit of behavior. And now I truly feel freer. And it's not because I'm trying to exterminate what came before. It's because I'm making sense of it and using it as a platform to move me forward. All right. That's what I got for my Capricorns. I love that, Shane. Until you make the unconscious conscious, you might possibly be thinking it's destiny, but living in fate, something that like that. It's a Jung quote. Yes, I agree with that in some way, because when you're living thinking that things are happening to you, it does feel like is this my destiny? Am I destined to be this way? And we don't give life to the idea that the repeated thought, oh my God, am I destined to be single forever? The truth is, then you're focused on singleness. You're not focused on couplehood. So anyway. Anil, I think or Anil, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Yeah, your birthday's within 2 days of this new moon, so that's very powerful for you. Mercury retrogrades bring exes back as well. I don't know specifically for you, but that's an intention. Do you want to invite that in, or tell Spirit to move it out? All right, let's go on to our Sagittariuses. Whoop. All right, Sagittarius, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. Our first angel is Daniel, the angel of marriage. The second is Yvonne, my angel of vulnerability. Then we have Chantal in the Angel's Advice. And then we have Fiona. Wow. It is Valentine's Day in a week. Wonder if some of you Sagittarians getting engaged or married. Let's see. Oh, I want a Vitamix so much. That is something I've wanted for years. Okay. Daniel is being joined by the king. Ooh, Sagittarius. We'll see. Yvonne is being joined by the communications card. Chantal is being joined by the history card, the bear. And then Fiona is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. For my Sagittariuses, I very much think this has a lot to do with love and partnership. And Daniel is the angel of marriage. It says that Spirit is bringing a partner to you. And then we have the King. Now, I don't, when I'm talking to as many people as I am, I don't see this as a man per se, but rather the male energy, justice, balance, karma. And then Daniel, the angel of marriage, talks about, what is my story about marriage? What is my experience? And what is the history that I bring into a situation? Because unless you're, I don't know, in grammar school, when you have your first crush, we start getting impressions. We start being branded with things. The very first time you're rejected, and I don't care if you're 5 years old and you go to hug another 5-year-old, you'll feel that. If they shun you, you'll feel it, and it will affect you the next time you go to hug somebody. I'm just using this as a random example because I feel like Sagittarius, this is very much about you starting to rewrite your story in love and starting to think of it as in a just and fair way. And that in many ways, your history is supporting a more fair dynamic because it's time for you to be more vulnerable, Sagittarius, in how you're communicating about relationships to yourself. And if you are talking to others, the same thing. And when I say being more vulnerable, it's kind of like that whole Rascal Flatts, bless the broken road. It's like the wisdom that comes when you finally are aligned to the person. And this is where I also want to talk about resistance again. Because if I have a very strong vibration when it comes to my love life, because every single human that loved me and raised me told me I was too difficult. Told me my standards were too high. And then I had astrologers tell me that when they look at the man in my chart, I'm looking for a man who doesn't exist. There's something about my sun and K2 and all of this stuff. And they literally, I can feel intuitively that the person, the astrologer is going, oh, she'll never find anybody. And I say this because am I going to buy into somebody else's story of me, or am I going to buy into my story of me? Because it doesn't matter if I'm 61 years old and I never got married. It doesn't mean anything. I have to have the courage to step into a bigger picture of myself. Because this is what I want to say, Sagittarius. Your willingness to be vulnerable in your communication and how that you want to be loved. You got 2 of the love cards. So there's an opportunity for love to be a new love to come in, or the resurgence of an old love. And I want to say it this way because there is the possibility that an old love will come back in, but you've got to be willing to assess whether or not that old love really is aligned to where you want to be. Because Fiona in the final position, Sagittarius, is saying that what you want is coming and God is in charge of it. But part of this journey is you, Sagittarius, having the courage to stand in what is truly authentic to how you thrive in a relationship. And if you have a story with someone, meaning you've been in a relationship with someone and you could have broken up and get back together, or you could be in a marriage that has been tense, it is about giving life to a new idea. And when I say a new idea, it's about, rather than focusing in on what the other person is doing in the relationship, it's focusing on how do I want to show up in the relationship. Because when I show up how I feel proud, then the ripple effect can really have more influence. That's the way I want to put it. Because this very much feels like it has to do with love. And I have, with Chantal in the Angel's Advice, it's about, to me, being more vulnerable to the idea that love is viable. Love is on the docket. Love in that really deep way. My guides have shown me for quite some time that there is going to be a resurgence of intimate love. And it's in a way that is no longer identified by the roles of man and woman as we have known them, but rather in vibrations that come together to support the bigger picture of what the soul wants to experience. So as we give life to the bigness within us, and this is not big to be dominant over others, but big in the sense of what we want to experience, then love is on the way, Bridget. Exactly. Love is now being invited in, and the person inviting it in is feeling safe within themselves to be vulnerable within the relationship. Okay. Stephen, are you advertising again on my channel, on my show? Because I don't want to get in trouble. Okay. But this is the thing, Diamond Mind. It may be the last thing on your mind, but it may be the thing that's most on your soul's heart. Because the idea of love and inviting somebody in is not about completing you. It's more about, I'm feeling this love at an elevated vibration. It feels more like this invitation for balance within relationship versus completion in relationship. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go. I think it's Rajat or Rajat. If you miss her, why don't you reach out? You know, be brave. Okay, here we go. Scorpio, rising, sun, moon, and stelliums. Our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Archangel Michael, asking us to have courage. In the angel's advice is Grace and Antoinette. And we have Merlina in the final position. All right, let's go on. Okay. I think I'm saying it right. Rajat. I'm going to address your being blocked in a minute, but let me get Scorpio done. Okay, here we go. Chantal is being joined by the letting go card, Scorpio. Archangel Michael is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the frog. And Merlina is being joined by the partnership card. Wow. Okay. Chantal talks about the resurgence of a romance or a new romance coming in, it being imminent, it not being, this is not about maybe, it is about absolutely. And I feel like for my Scorpios, this letting go card is really not about letting go of romance, but rather here we go back to, it's funny how some distance makes everything look small and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. I want to offer it this way because when we are feeling emotionally vulnerable, when we are feeling influenced by somebody else's perception of us, it is so important in many ways to realize that in a really authentically loving relationship, it is our own version of what we think of ourselves that is most powerful for the health of the relationship. Because to me, this for Scorpio is really about reigniting yourself in love, to allow whatever fears, whatever, you're such a deep, intense, loving, when you have a Scorpio that has your back, you've got a strong person behind you and somebody who really will go to the mat for you in some ways that you won't go for yourself. And I feel like this is Scorpio, you got to own that. You got to own it in a really wonderful way and start to really allow your fears to identify where false evidence is appearing real, because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Archangel Michael asking you to have the courage for a rebirth in your love sector. And this is not necessarily about going out and, chasing down somebody per se. We've got, a week from today is Valentine's Day in the United States. I don't know if you guys have Valentine's Day in the rest of the world, but it's a big, single awareness day. It's supposed to be celebrating intimate love, and those that are single sometimes get really bummed out. So I feel like for my Scorpios, this is really about a rebirth, and having the courage to have a rebirth in the idea of love, because Grace and Antoinette in the Angel's Advice is asking you to have compassion for the journey of healing that you've been doing. The frog is about cleaning up emotional baggage. And I want to say in the final position is Merlina and the partnership card. So Scorpio, I want to tell you something. There's a couple things going on here. For some of you, I feel like there are relationships that you have that you may not think you're that important to the person, and you're more important than they're letting on. And I feel like Merlina is part of the reason that you're feeling vulnerable, is because you may think, oh, that person can take or leave me. They may tell me that they care about me, but I don't know that they care about me. And I feel like there's a deeper, I want to put it this way, Scorpio. I feel like you're going to experience intimate relationships at a level where you're going to start to see your value, but it isn't because the other person told you about it. It's because you know your value. And then as you incorporate that and integrate that in a stronger way, then that other party starts to acknowledge that. That's what it feels like. It's almost as if, as you know what you bring to the table, whether the relationship is rocky, is new, it's unstable in some way. And even if it's an old relationship, it could still be unstable. But now you're letting your fears pull you into a place where I'm willing to give. I'm willing to be courageous. And that courage is not about looking at what you're doing wrong. It's about looking at my reaction to it, or looking at how I'm responding, or looking like, where is my stinger, Scorpio? Because this compassion that is so healing. And I want to say it this way, because when you say you love somebody and then we criticize them or we blame them, it doesn't feel like love. And the other party gets a mind meld, and even we get a mind meld. So when we think about compassion and the idea that compassion is a vibration of love that allows for flaws, it allows us to be the fabulously flawed humans that we are. And in doing so, we become more, how do I want to put it? More feels like it's stopping me. It feels more authentic. Guess that's the way I want to put it. It's like, you know what? I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. So rather than focusing in on you not being perfect, I'm just going to focus in on me being fabulously flawed and showing up in the most authentic way that I can in any given moment. It may not be perfect. It may not be great. It may not be pleasant even, but it's authentic. That's where I'm going with this. And I feel like, Scorpio, I want to say this. If you have not put any spit and polish on your love life, I think your love life, there's an invitation being offered to you through spirit. And your job is to step into that invitation and to give life to the idea that it isn't about swiping right or left. It's about opening up and letting spirit bring that in. All right, let's go on to our Libras. Yes, posted up, embracing the whole of a person. I think that, I watch a lot of reality television, like home shows and cooking shows and other stuff. And they've been showing a lot of Fixer Upper lately, because Joanna and Chip are about to launch their own channel, and it's all, promotion. But I noticed, Chip is funny. If you guys watch Fixer Upper and the Gains, they've become very powerful. And Joanna has a way of dealing with Chip that is just so beautiful, because Chip is a little bit of a goofball. He bangs himself into walls, and oh yes, Rajat, I'll agree to that in 1 second. But I want to put it this way, because I think that Joanna is a really great example of allowing someone to be somebody who they are, as is Chip towards her. So I'm going to use that. Rajat, you're blocked. Your ex has blocked you on all platforms. That's a very earthbound thought. So I want to offer it this way. Rajat, if indeed this relationship is meant to come back together, if indeed it is healthy and viable, then you engaging the unseen forces to allow for you two to connect again. It could be random. You could walk into a Starbucks, you could walk into a restaurant, you could be walking down the street, or she could reach out to you. But I feel like if you look at how much you're focused on that she blocked you, that in and of itself is a block. So now you open it up to spirit and you ask them to give you the eyes, the heart, the ears, and the wisdom to see your co-creation and opening up a space. Because what you're doing is you're saying, if you open up a space to unblock me, my vibration will be more aligned to balance. And in doing so, watch the universe move things around. So weird. Because in this computer age, we don't give life to the idea that we can run into people and that there are, or, back in the olden days, people actually had to get up and walk towards other people in order to make things happen. We didn't carry phones everywhere we go. So open up to that idea and see what happens, because I think it would be very, very powerful. And then come back and tell us if indeed it happened. And don't put a time limit on it so much. All right, here we go. Here we go. On to our Libras, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. I'm a sun, Libra sun. And I'll tell you, I had no idea how Pluto was messing with me and my rising sign, Aries rising, squaring Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter for the last year. Woohoo! My sun and my rising. All right, here we go. Yes, Shelley, agreed. Sometimes that block is about moving things forward. But that's, again, when we engage spirit to if this relationship has the ability to make me thrive, to bring balance, to bring to both parties the highest vibration of what we can have, then spirit will either move it out or bring it forward. All right, Libra. Our first angel is Yvonne, the angel of vulnerability. The second is Caressa, the angel of chapters closing. Isaiah's new beginnings. And then Omega is victory. Awesome. I don't know if anything is perfect. I think perfect is really... I don't even know if it would be enjoyable to attain perfection. It almost feels like it would be so isolating. Can you imagine how many people could really attain perfection? You'd be there all by yourself. I'd much rather be fabulously flawed. Okay, Libra. Joining Yvonne is the focus card. Joining Caressa in the opportunity or the obstacle is the trust card. Joining Isaiah is the dog. And joining Omega is the partnership card. Oh, so funny. So, you guys, I've talked about my personal love life or their lack thereof a lot. And on this show, I just mentioned how I've had outside forces supporting this uphill climb that I've anticipated and projected into the future. So, what do we see in the foundational position? My lovely Libras is vulnerability. And the vulnerability comes as to what is your focus? What is your focus? And I got to tell you, you got to ask yourself this question a few times, because the initial answer will be the superficial answer. My focus is good. I want a relationship. I'm open. Or maybe I'm not. I want a relationship, but I don't want this. And but I don't want that. And but. So to me, this is really much more about being vulnerable to my co-creation because Libra wants balance so much, wants fairness in relationship, wants harmony in relationship. So what will I do? In my opportunity or my obstacle, the caressa is at the end of a chapter, that new happiness awaits me as I trust a bigger picture. And that bigger picture, I want to go back to the evolution that as spiritual beings in this human experience of illusion and of fear and of disempowerment, this is actually stepping into such a huger dynamic of what you want for yourself. I feel like this is about the end of this chapter of lacking of trust. Because in the angel's advice is Isaiah saying it's time to give birth to new ideas. And then there's the dog. And the dog is not, I don't know that the human can love unconditionally. The dog can. But what I do believe is that this is a loyalty and a sincerity to allowing for a new chapter, to allowing the Libra to experience something outside of themselves. And this trust comes from a deeper place. Because in the final position, Libra, is the partnership card and the victory card. So while I would like to say, oh my goodness, I'm a Libra, I don't know if I'm actually going to find partnership, I think that this partnership card is an invitation. And the victory that's being offered is, again, an invitation. And that invitation goes back to being vulnerable to my focus. If indeed, as a Libra, I have not experienced partnership, and let me broaden that partnership idea, because yes, I could talk about intimate partnership, but there's also partnerships in business, there's partnerships in friendships, there are all types of partnerships that we have with each other as individuals. So as I give life to the idea that I'm vulnerable to my focus, where has my focus been? And then I come back around to, okay, now I can start to shift that. And in doing so, I'm experiencing more victory over what has been challenging before or in the past. Libra is a sign of partnership. Partnership is the ultimate energy of compromise. It is, in order to have a healthy relationship with another person, a willingness to compromise, a willingness to see the best in them, and not because I want you to see the best in me. That's where we get messed up. We as humans tend to go, I gave you this, give it back to me. So if we give ourselves the opportunity to see balance within ourselves, to forgive our fabulous flaws, to realize that even on our worst day, we're doing the best we can do, and then we give that permission to our partners, we bring in something that is very Aquarian and very much in alignment with this new moon. Okay, let's go on to our Virgos. Move the story forward a little bit quicker. I don't know what kawa sexual means, but I hate astrologers that talk nothing but relationship and all love all day, every day. I don't know what that means. Are you not happy in love? Is that why you're saying that? I don't know. And we're all entitled to our opinions, I suppose. I try to imagine a world where people aren't focused on love, and it seems counterintuitive, really. Okay, here we go. Yes, Wonder Woman had the invisible plane, and she had the rope of truth. Okay, here we go. For our Virgos, our first angel is Archangel Michael. The second is Layla. The third is Patience, and the final is Francesca. Oh, Wonder Woman. I was raised on TV. I was the babysitter. All right, Virgo, here we go. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Bee card. Layla's being joined by the Risk card. Patience is being joined by the Fire Fairy. And Francesca is being joined by the Water Fairy. This is so interesting. All right. So here we have the Bee and Archangel Michael. This is about my being energy, Virgo, and the courage to be aware of it. The courage to be aware of where do I spend my time? What do I think about? What is my vibration? It's very interesting to me because there are certain dynamics where, how do I want to phrase this? Because I'm a little distracted by quasi-sexual being so, I don't know whether to think that you're being constructive or passive aggressive with me. Because I have to say this, the lovey-dovey stuff, I don't quite get it. Because our being energy, our feeling valuable in this world, our feeling purposeful is a love vibration. And it's all people care about, whether they like it or not. I'm trying to think of one person on this planet that can actually thrive without feeling love in some way or another. And those that have been burned by humans will find love in their animals. So, I don't know. Because this is where I'm going with Virgo. I think this is having the courage to actually be in the energy that makes you happy, makes you feel lovey-dovey, makes you want to feel thriving and purposeful on this planet, because spirit is asking you to talk to them and to risk it all to feel valuable, to feel like I want more than just what, the sixth house represents some very interesting dynamics. It represents our pets, where there's that unconditional, true unconditional love. It represents our work dynamic. And if we're not working at something that we love, then we are a slave to that. We're a slave to our wallet. We're a slave to our credit cards. We're a slave to our debt. In ancient times, or not so ancient times, it actually represented true, straight up slavery. So I feel like for Virgos, it's time to truly risk talking to spirit about a much bigger picture of what you want. And that is evidenced by the Patience card and the Fire Fairy. The Fire Fairy is very Martian to me. It's about the spark of creativity. It's about this energy that I haven't quite experienced. And the Patience card is about observing my own energies, it literally says, now is the time to learn, study, and gather information. Enjoy being a student, because in the future you will synthesize your knowledge. And I believe that this is about my own observing my ability to allow for the spark of creativity. How much as a Virgo do I allow myself to risk a bigger picture of what I want to experience and what I want to foster and nurture within my own life? Because Francesca is saying, what do you visualize right now? Focus on that, because negativity will block your progress. And there's the Water Fairy. So to me, this is very much about knowing that my emotional body, what I feel, is the platform for everything I create, whether I'm conscious or unconscious of it. And now, as I have the courage to really step into what is my being energy, there's a formula called the be, do, have. As I identify my belief, my attitude, my disposition, as I go into my doing, then I manifest. So this is really an opportunity, as these 6 planets converge in Aquarius, to, in some ways, observe, what am I purporting? In some ways, do I take old vibrations into my future? Well, it's always been this way. Well, it's always been this way. That would be very Saturnian. in some respects. So as I say, you know what, it's always been this way, but I have evolved through that. And as I evolve through that, I am allowing myself to experience something new. And as I allow myself to experience something new, I stand protected by Archangel Michael as I allow myself to be courageous, not to judge and criticize how I have been and how I have been believing what I have believed. I didn't, when I was a little girl, my dad used to tell me that my standards were too high all the time. Your standards are you expect too much. You expect too much out of people and their behavior. And that mind melded me. How could I expect too much? Why was I expecting too much? Shouldn't the world be fair, Dad? And he'd say, no, Teri, the world isn't fair. That's the old thought. The world isn't fair. I looked at him, I said, that's a choice, Dad. People choose that. And fairness is not necessarily how I judge something, but fairness to me is just the allowing, going back to the law of allowing, for others to have their experience. So Virgo, as you have the courage to look at what do I believe about things, how much permission do I give myself to believe I can be victorious over a situation, that I can be powerful, that I can risk something as I connect with spirit, with the deeper truth of what I want. And then I'm brave and I'm optimistic about my own observations of myself, because then I become powerful in knowing that my emotions dictate my perception, and my perception starts the wheels of manifestation. And that's when I go back to spirit and I say, okay, all my experiences have supported a version of myself I don't like. So give me a new experience to start a new perception. Yeah, don't listen to your boss tell you to lower your standards. That's exactly that's not the way to go. Oh, Diana, sending lots of love to you. Okay, here we go. Onto our Leo, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Zihan, thank you so much for sending the hearts. I love that. I feel them. I want to offer this too. Sometimes when we, I almost feel like when we're talking about having high standards, or, you're expecting too much, don't expect too much. If we go back to the idea that it's okay for the people in our lives to be fabulously flawed, then maybe we're not expecting too much. We're just standing in the vibration we want to purport. So as we purport that for ourselves, we're not standing in criticism of someone else, but rather this is how I want to evolve, and I'm fabulously flawed. I'm going to take one step forward, two steps back. Oops, did you see my body language? I went one step forward, two steps back. That was kind of funny, but it's that same sort of thing. So I just kind of want to loosen the borders of yay and nay, good and bad, love and hate. All right, Leo. Here we go. Our first angel is Archangel Michael. The second is Astera. The third is Archangel Gabriel. And the final is Layla. All right. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Fire Fairy. Astera is being joined by the Movement card. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Focus card. And Layla is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. So my Leos, ruled by the sun. The sun rules the zodiac. It also rules the fifth house, personal pleasure, creative genius, children, hobbies, romance. And I feel like when I look at this, I feel like Archangel Michael is asking my Leos to start to project a more optimistic and excited, creative dynamic. And I don't feel like, right now, for some reason, his wings are so bright and white. They're almost like a light is illuminating from the card. And I feel like it's just like the sun. As you, Leo, allow yourself, you kind of rule the fire fairy in some ways. You rule creative action. You rule optimism. Leo's a very happy sign. Okay. When we think of the sun, we think of joy and happiness. We think of being sun-kissed and being out in summertime, in pleasure. So I feel like this is really about Leo starting to gravitate towards your natural energy of being optimistic. Because Astera is saying, as you reach for the stars with your dreams and your desires, don't compromise. And there's movement. In the previous reading, we were talking about love life and dumbing down our what we want, and the others will advise us of that so we can be in a relationship. And Spirit's saying just the opposite. No, reach for the stars. Because as you reach for the stars, your vibration will then draw in a natural vibration of someone. And let me offer it this way, because the person or the dynamic that you may draw in, Leo, it doesn't have to have been a perfect person, but a person who has evolved into being the vibration that you are looking to match. Because in the angel's advice is Archangel Gabriel asking you to turn over your insecurities and also your communication and to look at your focus. Your focus is on reaching the stars. There's movement there. The hero, I love what you say about don't lower your expectations, but I think that word expectations should be, I feel like when I key into that, it's like the expectation is not of the other person, but of myself, and allowing myself to know that I want to respond in a certain way. So does the person I'm engaging in elicit the best version of myself? Because that's where, when we get to the end of this spread here, we have Layla asking you to connect again with Spirit and having the courage and the self-respect to hold tight to what it is that you have this creative idea about. So let's put it in the love sector, since Leo rules romance. Rather than saying, I want a partner who is romantic, what if Leo said, I'm going to display my romance in my relationships. I'm not going to worry about what happens on the other side. I'm just going to be authentic to me. So if I like to wake you up in the morning with a little good morning sunshine, I'm going to do that. I feel like this is really about authenticity of expression versus what I'm expecting to receive. Because if I'm being able to express myself authentically, then I will authentically be able to evaluate whether what I'm receiving back lines up with my vibration. That's all. It's not about judging things good or bad. It's about alignment. And that's why I think this stellium in Aquarius, on this new moon, the 11th, at the 11th hour of the day, Pacific time, is really asking me to evaluate where my focus is. Because as we agree as a community of beings, vibrational beings, to align our focus to a vibration that is heart-centered, we start to, whether we realize it or not, all those people that are saying dumb down are supporting the dumb down vibration. And as we align, and I hate to put it up and down because that feels judgy, but as we align to a vibration that's more authentic to what we want to experience, we are giving that Aquarian invitation to the others to come into our network of being. That's where I want to go with this. That's the whole age of Aquarius, the revolution that's coming. It doesn't have to be a revolution where I hit you and bang you upside the head in war. It could be it feels more like the Beatles. You say you want a revolution. Well, we all want to change the world. That's it. Sorry I sang, but that's where I'm going with it. That's where I'm going with it. And you should hear me. Last night I was singing The Sound of Music all over my house. I'm so kooky. All right, on to our Cancers. Rising Sun, Moon, and Stelliums. Okay. Zoom Super Bowl party. That sounds like fun. Okay. Super Bowl doesn't start till 3:30 here. All right, here we go. Chan, good to see you here. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Tony Martell. All right, here we go. Cancer, Rising Moon, Sun, and Stelliums. Our first angel is Merlina. The second is Rosetta. The third is Bridget. And the final is Seraphina. Oh, thank you guys. You're so nice. I love to sing. I actually really do. It's so funny. Okay. Merlina is being joined by the Joy card. Rosetta's being joined by the History card, the Baird. Bridget's being joined by the Bee. And Seraphina's being joined by the Deer. All right. For my Cancer, I just got chills everywhere. Merlina says you're confused and indecisive because you don't have enough information. And I felt so much that of all the signs that Cancers had the hardest time with this isolation and this social distancing. And when will it be over? When will we get to reconnect with those that we love and to reconnect with the souls we have contracts for that we have not yet met in this physical experience? Because Cancer, you're confused and indecisive because you don't have enough information, because this is no longer, the baton is not in your hand. It is now in Spirit's hand. And I feel like the idea of joy, which is a very challenging, it is the most challenging vibration for people to feel, because they feel fearful of joy. When I'm happy, something bad's going to happen. The rug's going to get pulled. Don't be happy for too long. And this is where I feel like there's a disconnect. So I want to offer it this way. For my Cancers, Rising Moon, Sun, and Stelliums. Right now, Spirit is conspiring and working on your behalf to bring things together in a way that you can't see. And your job is to believe in magic and to hold space for joy that you have yet to experience. Because Rosetta is saying that there's a childlike innocence that needs to be purported above and beyond what you've experienced. And I want to put it this way too, because Cancer rules parenting. It rules motherhood. It rules the maternal experience. And I want to offer that you may feel you're being robbed of that experience. Whether you're a man or a woman, it's not relevant. To me, it's being able to be around those that you love and to purport the nurturing behavior that you've always purported. There's a missing of that's happened, and a wanting to move that story forward. So rather than looking too deeply into what is, it's really more about aligning to what do I believe. I feel like this is, again, we are being, as humans, put into experiences that are really asking us to dig deep into what is the basis of our belief. Because as you look into that, I believe, Cancer, that you believe you're going to be victorious. I believe that you, on a deep, deep level, know that things are going to come back around, and that the relationships that you love, you enjoy, and you hope to experience moving forward are coming ahead of you. And now is a time to be gentle and diplomatic with yourself as Spirit Seraphina brings happy changes to families. And the deer, while it can represent fear, is very much asking me to be gentle and diplomatic with myself as I hold a space for more joy moving forward. There is a feeling of appreciation coming for Cancer. You know, there's this, I have a few Cancers in my life that I'm going to say this lovingly, to my Aries rising feels sometimes too needy. And I feel like that idea has shifted. And instead of seeing Cancer as needing to connect, to fill something, I feel like it's more of a invitation now. And when you come back into these relationships and be able to spend more time with these people, they are going to appreciate you at a new level, as you will appreciate them at a new level. And this journey that you've been on, while it has felt like being on an island by yourself, it feels like it's almost like you say, wow, the distance really does make the heart grow fonder. I see you more clearly. I'm willing to allow you to be more yourself than maybe what we had. You know, families tend to put each other in roles. And so I feel there's a bit of a breaking of the roles. There's a bit of breaking up of the old history. And in the breaking up of the old history, I'm actually adding in more authenticity to my relationships. That's where I'm going with this. And I do think that there is a strong sense of Cancer wanting to be able to be in a position of nurturing others again and enjoying that. So keep your eye on the prize. Don't let time get in your head. That could be the other thing. If you stare at a pot, it doesn't boil. You know, you got to walk away from it. Have you ever stared at a minute on the clock? It seems to take forever. Go do something else. Okay. Here we go on to our Geminis. Jules, you sang which whole song did you sing? Was it the one I was singing, the Beatles, or were you singing Sound of Music? I was singing Sound of Music to my dog yesterday. When you know the notes to sing, you can sing most anything. All right, here we go. Oh, I love to sing. One day I was singing with this was years ago. In fact, the gal that is now crossed over, but I was singing to something and I had my windows open and she walked by my windows and she yelled up, "Teri, is that you up there singing?" And I was like, oh no, you can hear me. All right, here we go, Gemini. Our first angel is Astera. Reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and don't compromise. Desiree is in the opportunity and or the obstacle. Isaiah is in the angel's advice. And then Yvonne is here. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. So we also know as we talk that we're going to have Uranus and Saturn are having a very tense conversation for almost this whole year. And there are 3 times that they will meet at the exact degree. Now, the exact degree is very powerful, no doubt, but the whole period of time with which they move into this square and then they move away from each other, then they move back. It's almost like a family having a repetitive argument. And I feel like Gemini, during this time, keeping your eye on the prize is going to be important. Astera is being joined by the novice. Desiree is being joined by the raven. Isaiah is being joined by the love card, being the dog. And then finally, the forgiveness card is joining Yvonne. So this is what I want to say. I believe so much that this last few years, ever since Saturn started to join, moved into Capricorn, and this is Western whole sign astrology, because if you do follow Joni Petrie, then you're following Vedic and it's a sign behind. But I want to put it this way, because Gemini, I feel like you are at a new beginning, as evidenced by the novice. Skill without practice of reaching for the stars with your dreams and desires, and in some ways observing your mind going back and forth between observing both potentials, what could and could not happen. Because at this point, I think you're going to realize that this is out of your hands. In some ways, Desiree is saying conditions are not favorable. And then the Raven is here, which is about synchronistic events, a certain amount of timing and coincidence. So this is where I'm going with this. What Gemini is starting to realize is that the unstable new beginnings is keeping your eye on the prize when you can't see how it's going to play out. Because Isaiah is saying it's time to give birth to new ideas. And then there's the dog. And I can't help but think a few of my Gemini clients that would very much like to move forward in their love body, very much like to meet their partners and then start to create families and move forward. And I feel like as a Gemini, your job this week with this new moon and Mercury being in retrograde, your ruling planet, is to really look and reevaluate where you've been. And did anybody serve you before? Because if you really thought about it, you'd be like, is an okay fit, but maybe not a great fit. Because what I'm reaching for is a great fit. And now in the final position, we have Yvonne, the angel of vulnerability and the forgiveness card. I feel very much that Gemini is about to embark upon experiences that they have only contemplated, only thought about, only wondered about, and wanted to experience. And now they're going to start to come into play. And as we move further and further into this year, and Saturn squares Uranus, it's going to be liberating from old dynamics that were holding you back. And let's just imagine, I'm thinking of one client in particular who happens to be a Gemini sun with a with a Capricorn rising. So inadvertently focusing in on her Gemini sun, she didn't realize that the Capricorn rising was having such a powerful impact on her as we were going through these transits. Now this starts to lift. And even though Saturn still is going to be her ruling planet, it's going to be liberated in some way through this square with Uranus. There must be cooperation between these two planets because they both rule Aquarius. And so I'm going to start to look for what works together in these two opposing energies versus what works in the opposite. And in doing so, I'm shifting the way and I'm making sense of it. I'm making sense of why it was so important for me to be vulnerable to a new beginning where I'm stretching myself. I'm stretching myself to believe deeper and deeper into what I want to experience. And then I'm using the power of Mercury, the power of Gemini, the power of how do I learn, what do I read, what do I think about, what do I speak about? Because those things are starting to create the experiences that I am having. And now as I connect to that, I'm making sense of it and I'm going deeper into focusing in on what I want to experience. All right, going on to our Tauruses. The Sound of Music is one of my favorite movies. I absolutely love it. Every year I watch it at least 2 or 3 times around the holidays. Thanks for bringing it up, Stephen. And I'm very sad about Christopher Plummer passing, but he was 91 years old. That's a nice run. Oh, thank you, Rajat, for watching so much, for watching so late or early in the morning. Let's get to your Taurus reading. I have a Taurus moon. All right, you guys. So Taurus is, we all know that Uranus has been transiting Taurus. And it's hovering around my moon right now. I'm not quite sure. I think it's somewhere around 8 degrees, 9 degrees. I'm at 9 degrees. And I've decided to embrace the liberation that Uranus has to offer as it triggers this, not just my moon, but the trine that my moon is attached to. So here we go. Taurus, our first angel is Akasha, the spiritual teacher. The second in our opportunity or the obstacle is Rosetta, the angel of children, of teaching, parenting. And then we have Isaiah in the angel's advice. Very interesting. Same cards coming up over and over again. And we have Archangel Michael in the final position. Chan, thank you so much for being up with me this morning. Okay. Oh, Stephen, you're going to get me to break out into song any minute now if you don't stop with that. All these are just triggering my whole inner soundtrack is going off. Okay. All right, Taurus, Akasha, the spiritual teacher, is being joined by the novice. Rosetta is being joined by the joy card. Isaiah is being joined by the Lady of the Lake, and Archangel Michael is being joined by the forgiveness card. All right, Taurus, Akasha, the spiritual teacher. It doesn't just talk about a spiritual teacher, you being a spiritual teacher, being able to awaken the gifts in others. But I believe that Akasha is standing as a spiritual teacher to allow you and me a little bit more, I want to use the word flexibility as we step into new beginnings, as we step into energies that we have very little practice at, very little skill at. The skill is more conceptual than it is experiential. Because what I think this is about, Taurus is a fixed sign. Again, Taurus likes to move slowly. It likes a sense of security. It likes a steady pace. And children run around like little Tasmanian devils and express joy so easily. This is their default energy. And that's where I think Spirit is going, is asking us Taurians to practice the spiritual teaching, the new beginning of joy in our lives. And I want to say it this way, because with Uranus popping off and putting up little explosions and potentially blowing up things in our lives, is this the kind of thing that is detonating bad things, or are these little explosions actually opening up good things? Because Isaiah in the Angel's Advice says it's time for new beginnings, and to know that we are being supported in these new beginnings and to give birth to these new beginnings. And then there's the Lady of the Lake. The new beginnings come through some sort of emotional storm. And that emotional storm feels like I don't know how to practice joy. I've worked so hard. I've been this bull, taking my time and methodically moving towards amassing things that make me feel secure. And at the same time, I'm not 100% happy. That's also my obstacle, is to trust and to be joyful. I want to put it this way. Happiness feels to me like almost the human views it as a luxury, not our God-given right, not our we when we incarnate on this planet, I believe that joy and happiness and singing and dancing and the things that we love, those should be sitting right at the forefront. And as children, hopefully, parents support that experience. And as we become adults, that experience becomes less and less important. And then getting the job done becomes more important. Getting your work done, getting your chores done, cleaning your house becomes more important. And I think that this is all what's being rewritten for Taurus. Because the unstable new beginning and what you have to share and teach others is being able to adapt and to allow your life to be more joyful and more playful. And it is really going to take a lot of courage to find the viability of that, because the natural stream, the natural flow of the human experience is to do what is very Saturnian in some ways. Be dutiful in your behaviors, because in the final position is Archangel Michael telling me here, doesn't feel like courage anymore. It feels like protection as I go through this period of forgiveness of self and reconciliation into this new dynamic. For Taurus, as you allow yourself this idea that your security, your sense of feeling safe in this world is in partnership with your team, And your team is not just your guides and angels, something outside of yourself, but a part of yourself that is in that. Okay, I'm sounding confusing, but for clarity, our whole, the entirety of our soul is not contained within our physical bodies. I believe that there is a fragment of our soul that inhabits this physical experience. And then there is what is going on my hair here? Then there is a part of us that is elsewhere. We're much bigger than this little brain can fathom. So as we give life to the idea that there's a bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that Taurus is in an unstable beginning of learning how to not only be happy for themselves, but they have that happiness then teaches others. And that's where we will see the reconciliation of this and the protection that we are being afforded as we purport this new energy. It's almost as if when Uranus in Taurus makes this square to Saturn in Aquarius, two fixed signs, rather than digging our heels into the old ways, it seems like it's going to create a more solid dynamic for the new ways. And yes, Nam, I'm going to go on to Aries right now. Just going to quickly wrap up Taurus in the sense of we have the new moon on the 11th, and then the next day, I believe, is the Chinese New Year, the year of the ox. So to me, in some ways, there's this for Taurus, the idea of the strength it takes for you to continue to soldier on, and at the same time, allowing yourself to be a little bit more flexible in your wants and your desires versus the dutiful behavior. That's the way I'm going to put it. All right, let's go on to Aries, and then we'll be done for the day. A little long-winded today. I apologize, guys. Try to keep this to an hour and a half. But I just talk. And Juan, we're going to be thinking of you when you have your surgery and sending you lots of love and good energy for quick and rapid recovery. All right, Rajat, thank you for joining. Get some sleep. We'll see you next week, hopefully. I hope I said your name right, too. Anyway, all right, here we go. Aries, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. All right, our first angel is Fiona. The second is Chantal. The third is Crystal. And the final is Layla. Pardon me. Bye, Shelley. See you next week. All right, joining Fiona is the Lady of the Lake. Joining Chantal is the Letting Go card. Joining Crystal is Merlin. And joining Layla is the Hawk. All right, my Aries. Fiona says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And then there's the Lady of the Lake. And, you know, I want to say this. If there's one sign that is courageous and willing to stand in that vibration, it is Aries. And so as you walk through a bit of an emotional storm through this new moon, and I say that because I feel like on some level, Aries is going to be asked to, how can I phrase this? Because, you know, Mars isn't necessarily in the mix right now with all this. It's moved past the square, and I don't know exactly where, if it's still in Taurus, but it's headed towards Gemini. And when I look at this, I feel like the emotional storm may be a little bit where Aries is wanting to take action and more than willing to go into the storm with their sword, but now it's God and the angels' turn. You know, and your job is to really sit in a solid way, holding your sword of truth, the Excalibur, and continuing to speak your truth to spirit as spirit starts to move things around. Because Aries, Chantal is the angel of love, the angel of romance, and there's the letting go card. And I don't think it's letting go. I want to say it this way. You know, when I was younger, I'm an Aries rising. My sister would tell me, you're way too hostile. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with you. You don't let anything go, blah, 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 blah. That's not true. I'm the most fun, loyal person. I just don't do well with BS. So now it's time to let go of all the old stories you've told yourself about romance and to let some distance into your fears because in the angel's advice is offering balance, alchemy, justice, but you can't see that yet. You can't see where it is because I think what's been happening is wherever your partner, okay, the people that are of a certain age that have either been married and divorced or have not experienced partnership yet, I truly believe that this is still a very viable dynamic and that the two parties are somehow coming together through their own choppy road on this planet. And it's through this journey of spirituality, or at least self-awareness. It doesn't have to necessarily be spirituality, but an awareness of self. Because for my Aries, there are signs and omens that things are changing. And part of the dynamic is knowing that God is in charge of bringing a lot of this to you. This is very much the law of allowing in play here. And your job, Aries, is to be brave enough to look for the signs and the omens and then to stay on task with your connection to spirit. Meaning, it's okay. It's all right if I haven't seen it yet. I know it's there. I know it's there. I know it's coming. I know that as a soul, as an Aries, I'm brave and that I would potentially take on a big chunk of inner knowing that would test me in the illusion of the human experience, but yet I would be triumphant over that test. And in being triumphant over it, it would be part of the service that I lay out for others to witness that. So if indeed you have not experienced balanced love or love of a aligned partner, Aries, and if you're wanting that, then I feel like it's time to really start to connect with spirit and say, thank you. I have the courage to believe things that I can't see. And now I'm putting you on task to give me those experiences so that I can put them into this 3D experience. And in doing so, not only fulfill myself, but allow others the invitation, Aquarius new moon, to revolutionize their lives and to create new structures. And those structures come as I put my intentions and desires to spirit, and then I'm brave enough to look for the signs and omens that they are being filled. Feels like there was something else I wanted to tell you guys, but I can't remember what it was. All right, so that's it for this week. I talked a little longer than I wanted to, but I have a little bit of that. That's a little bit of Teri love there. So I want to thank you all for joining me this week. Again, we have a new moon, so take advantage of the energies and be brave in setting your intentions. Be brave in knowing that spirit supports the highest vibration of what you want. And there is no such thing as greed. So no matter how big you want your life to be, no matter how much abundance, how much love, how much joy you want, it's not too much. So be brave. Go for the gusto. Grab the brass ring and keep your eye on the prize. Thank you all, everybody, for joining. And for those of you new people that have been here, thank you for coming. I hope you'll be back again next week. And for those of you that come every week, thank you for your support. I love you all. Stephen, Juan, Oil Painter, Small Wildflowers, Tebow. Gosh, I can't even think of everybody. CJD, Post Up, thank you. I want to send out great love to you all and have a good week. And I'll see you next Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Peace